Okay, so this one should be nice and quick. I want to secure this breaker box a bit better. The only security it's got right now is this lock that it came with, and as we know, there's only 4 or 5 different combinations of keys that come with these boxes. So there's no need to encase this one entirely in a cage. I went and bought another strip of angle iron. This one's a bit beefier than the previous ones. You can see the size of it is bigger. It's 30 by 30. So all I should need to do is just put a strip along the front, a strip along the sides, and then some sort of lock to hold them together. And I'd like to cover that front lock that's on it with some sort of plate. So I don't need these templates anymore. I'll break these up and then I can reuse this wood. So the first step is I'll make a quick mock-up of that box in wood and then show you my plan. So it took me just under an hour to break apart that taller template that I don't need anymore, and then I reused the wood to make this quick mock-up of the breaker box. So again, this is just, stapled together, nothing fancy. So this is exactly the same dimensions as the breaker box, and this is where that front lock is. So as I mentioned earlier, I don't need to enclose this whole thing inside a cage. I think all I need to do is use some of that new thicker angle iron, and I put some across here and then some across this side and have some sort of padlock. But as we saw in the last video, where I included some CCTV footage of the guys who steal these cables, they come along with big bolt cutters. So I don't want to leave the padlock just dangling here exposed, because then that's super easy to cut with the bolt cutters. So I had a little hunt around in the home store and I found this padlock. Now this padlock is not particularly strong. I mean, it's strong enough, but the thing I like about it is, as you can see here, once you open it, the lock part fully detaches from the hook, whatever you call this part, this hook, right? So that means that I don't need to have this padlock exposed much. I just need to be able to get to the bottom of it so I can stick the key in. So that means it might be good for putting a whole plate in front of it so that you can't easily get to it with bolt cutters, but you can get to it from the bottom with a key. And because of its length, the reason I chose the longer one is maybe I could cover this whole thing here. I'll have two bars, cover this whole thing, cover the whole thing with a plate, and that way it's all just locked away, fairly obvious. You can't get it open in a couple of minutes. So I'll start cutting the angle iron and then I'll just screw it to here and show you what I mean. So I'm just making this up as I go along, really. I cut some pieces of that angle iron, just rounded the corners a little bit, and I've made holes for the rivets, and for now they're just screwed into the wood. So you can see how the lock goes through the top section and the bottom section in one go. And I've measured things out, so I leave a bit of space here between where these two flanges come together, so it won't be super tight trying to open and close this thing. But you can see the padlock is still quite exposed, right? And that's super easy to cut with bolt cutters, especially those big bolt cutters that they tend to carry around. So now I'm going to try making some sort of cover for the front here. I think I might try making just a complete free floating cover, and then if it had the holes lined up, I can put the cover on and put the lock through all in one go. If that doesn't work, then I might make a permanent cover fixed onto one of these sides, and that will swing open. So I'll have to leave a little hole for this lock here, so we can still get to it. But yeah, so that's the first step. So for the cover, I've got a bit of this angle iron left, and I've got a few strips of this left over from the previous cage. So I'm going to try butt welding these together like this. I might have to put 2 pieces. So butt weld one here, and then butt weld another one on the end. And then make a little piece on the inside with holes that the lock can go through. So that's what I'm going to try now. Just making a little cover to protect that padlock. Okay, so it's a couple of hours later now, and this is the cover I made. Normally I don't grind down my welds, but I was practicing different techniques with this one at the same time and learning and stuff. Some of the welding's a bit messy because for this part I tried using the flux core welder instead of the stick, and it tends to make a bit more of a mess. But it doesn't matter, it's really, really strong. There's no way you could pull any of these components apart. So I think you get the idea. It's like there's the face that will go over the front, and there's the holes for the lock to go through, and then there's this panel on the side, so you can't get to the side of the lock. So I'll try and do this one-handed. Basically you close the door, and this panel fits on top. It should rest in position, and then let me get the lock, and then from the top, it's easier, much easier with 2 hands once this is lined up. Then you just pop the lock in, and it should, there you go, so it falls all the way through. And now you can see it's where is it? Here, see, just popping out the bottom. So this is going to be tricky with 2 hands, but anyway, you click this on, right? And then now the bar of the lock is completely concealed. That's what this back thing's for. You just can't get to it. And there's a little bit of a hook here, but I can't even get my small bolt cutters in here. Never mind my big ones. It's tough to get a pair of pliers in here. So that's the basic idea. And then when you undo it, you just undo the key here, and you kind of push it up a little bit. With one hand might be tricky. And then from the top, you can kind of just reach in with your fingers and pull it out. Back on site now, and here's the parts all painted. I've screwed them back to the template so I can take measurements. I have this little extra piece because this will stop it from prizing open, so I'll show you that at the end. So now I just need to make some holes in this box and rivet the pieces on. So I've riveted the brackets on, which didn't take very long. So you close the door, put the cover over, and the lock goes all the way through from the top, and then from the bottom you can fit another lock's on. So this is how the lock looks when it's closed. There's the small hook here, which I can only just get one finger into, so it's very hard to get any tool in here to cut this. This back bit is closed. From the bottom, the lock is completely recessed. I'm not sure it's going to come out in this light, but here it is. Here's the bottom of the padlock. And then from this side, you can't get to anything, and I even lined up this bottom hook covering the main lock anyway, so you can't even get into that. The only thing is, I noticed when I was refitting the pieces after painting on the wood that this has a bit too much play in it for my liking, I don't think anyone would bother to prise this off, but I don't want that much play. So this little piece will fix that. All I need to do is put this onto here so it stops from swiveling. So let me put that on now and then show you again. So this was my idea, that if I fit this piece onto the back of the bracket here, then it can't swivel because it's against the box. But the only problem is I had to take the rivets out because it made it so tight that I couldn't get the lock in or out. So instead I'll make another hole. I'll put this piece here and it will just act as a stop then, so this can't, you know, swivel that way, and that should be good enough. So here's that last piece fitted. It was much easier to fit it here than try and line it up with the back of this bracket anyway. So now the this front face, it can't swivel that way, which means there's much less play in this front panel. So there we go, all done. The lock is in. So now my main breaker, this box here, is nice and secure. This is the main one they need to turn off before they steal anything from the site anyway. So that's good. And I'll do something similar for this box here, and that one there is also mine. So I'll make some similar arrangement here. Yeah, and then the next step, this winter I'll cut the weeds under these panels, maybe put some more ground sheets down, and then think about some way to start securing these cables as well. But that's enough for now.